Hello, Senator Langley, Representative Cornfield, members of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. My name is Marcel Polak. I'm the chair of the SAD 44 Withdrawal Committee, and I just wanted to add a few points. I will not repeat what I said this morning, but there are some important points that I think would help you make up your minds. And the first point is about the history of the district. It was incorporated in 1965, so it just celebrated its 50th anniversary. In the first 25 years, in the early years, it was actually Andover that provided the largest share of revenues, and that was because of ComSat. And essentially, after 25 years, as Sunday River grew, it was only on the 25th year that Newry started to equal Bethel, which then took over from Andover as the largest taxpaying share, and now they're about neck and neck. So the towns came together to share resources, and those resources were shared with Newry from Andover in the early years. It's an important point to make. I wanted to just explain again our effort at the cost-sharing committee vote, and I believe that vote was 54 to 46 by the voters. That was an 8% spread, which I consider a pretty decisive vote, and it's essentially supported the board's position. I also wanted to, for those who weren't here, I want to repeat, we're actually we just sent a letter to the commissioner to request just what RSU has done, to reapportion the school board. And so there are local solutions on the table right now, and that includes also a June vote by Newry voters to end withdrawal, and I'd like to see that continue. My last point is I have very deep concerns about a binding mediator, and I'll tell you one reason is because it's a complex issue. There's a lot of moving parts, and binding mediator is going to have to come in here and understand the community. We had a process with the cost-sharing committee where a facilitator was selected from a list that was provided by the Department of Education, and that facilitator led us through the process. He was someone who actually had knowledge of the district, had worked for the district to do some financial work, and he made two egregious errors, one of which was to not be aware of LD1, and then two, he basically, as he created a solution, he did not include both the EPS share and the local share in computing the numbers that the committee then voted on, thinking that it was done, and we left the committee. I called him up almost immediately, and he acknowledged that he'd made a serious mistake. The committee got brought back to redo what they had done because it was done wrong. So that's essentially the outcome of one person who was, quote, an expert, who unfortunately fell short in his expertise. So I strongly hope that you will vote down LD 1336. Thank you for letting me testify.
Representative Cornfield, question for you, Paul.
But don't you see that you're coming to ask people who are not experts, who don't understand the unintended consequences, who don't know the culture of the towns? We're frankly uncomfortable being asked to make this decision because we're citizen legislators. So what you didn't like about the person that you invited in to help you, I think applies to us as well, don't you think?
It's very difficult to come up with a solution, and obviously the legislature dealt with this in 2005 and acknowledged, and this is what the heart of the issue is that RSU 6 and SAD 44 are in unique situations. And that is a reality, and the reality of the withdrawal is a serious impact to public education, and there's no other way around it. And this mediator ultimately can't talk about quality of education, as Selectman Largesse suggested. I would love to have a discussion about the quality of education. The mediator is bound to only create an agreement that includes withdrawal. The withdrawal, by definition, has to mean Nuri takes away $2.5 million. That's the heart of the issue. And, you know, if the legislature can vote the difference in that amount, or give us back what we've lost over the last 10 years, then this issue would probably go away, because it is about money. That's what it's about. It's about the loss of $2 to $2.5 million and the impact to the students in our area, including Nuri students who are going to come back to a diminished district.
President McCray.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So let's suppose that we go through this by mediation. Let's suppose that becomes where we end up, where you guys end up. Oh, okay, I had one to be there. Okay, but anyway, so that's where you go. And there's been a little bit of discussion here as to, okay, so there's an agreement. Where does it go for voters then?
Just goes to the Nuri voters. Just to the Nuri voters do get to vote on it, but not the other 3 towns.
Okay,
So they live with the results, and again, of a marriage that was consummated 50 years ago to bring resources together. Now those, you know, one town is potentially taking its resources away after it was subsidized for largely a large part of that district by the other towns.
okay. Could I ask if that is the case for Dr. McCarthy, in the work session, if that's in fact the way this week?
We'll get some clarity on that.
Okay,
We'll make sure we know that before we cast the vote.
that's good then. Thank you very much.
President Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So am I correct in, this is, then, I've heard both sides. Am I correct in putting it bluntly, that you are advocating for taking away the rights of one town to vote on withdrawing?
No, I am not, because as I said, there are right now some local solutions on the table. The reapportionment of the board, I think, could go a long way to solving this issue, because it will provide more representation. I've just checked with our attorney, and from what he's seen in other communities in terms of that process, that could happen in 2 to 3 months. So that could, you know, and then in June, the voters in Nuri are going to have a chance to decide whether they've had enough of this or they want to continue this. So it's just, you know, the problem again that I'm facing as a school board director, faced with responsibility for the education of all our kids, is that it takes money to educate our kids. And we can't figure out how not to lose $2 to $2.5 million. If we could figure out a way not to lose that money, when Andover withdraw, I served on the same role, and we completed that very quickly, simply because the impact to SAD 44 was neutral, was close to neutral. It had very little financial impact. We have to consider what it costs to educate our kids.
So, the whole point of this legislation, you have to kind of see it from our perspective here too, and I agree 100% with Representative Cornfield on it. We're at a very macro level here, and for this bill to kind of dig into one, pick a side essentially is what you're asking us to do in this process. So how would you go about finding a system that's going to work for everybody? Because we're talking about folks in the future too, because we don't know where the next Newry or Fry Island is going to pop up as people keep leaving Maine.
Well,
so how do we get ahead of it?
I don't relish your position, and I wish that the legislature could come up with a process that would be comprehensive. But on one hand, the governor is pushing for less superintendents, less districts, and on the other hand, we're also allowing unraveling of our districts. So there's a disconnect there. You know, the consolidation process, which I was involved in, unleashed all these challenges all over the state. And I wish I could tell you that I have a solution, a comprehensive solution. I don't. So I thank you for your work. It's hard, but my job is you know, I also am a citizen, elected by the citizens, and it's a challenge to be in this place. It's become a part-time job for me. I'm supposed to be retired.
Well, that's it, that's right. Reimbursement. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you very much.
your time here today. Is there anyone else like to testify in opposition?